Leave your comments on the Ask Reddit sub, and I'll read your answers on the next episode of LWIAR. What is your "I was into X before it was cool" thing? Swine flu. I got it in February 2008 and was the third reported case worldwide. I just upvoted the third recorded person to get swine flu. 15th person diagnosed also in February 2008. Funny coincidence. You and the person who got corona should become friends and share a case of Corona beer with some bacon. I named my cat Corona because that was the only box we had to carry her home in. I thought it was an adorable name. 3 years later, and that name has aged phenomenally. Carrot asterisk. I have a buddy who named his dog Zika. Y'all should get together. I have a cat named Isis, though now she goes by the self-proclaimed Islamic State. Could be worse. Could be Toyota in 2004 naming one of their new MPVs with Isis. Snowboarding. You couldn't even bring them to resorts. 1983. This is before it was too hot. There are still mountains that prohibit snowboards. I don't understand it. Snowboarders do this thing where they turn sideways and scrape down the mountain when it gets steep. Kinda like if you turned sideways and dug in your edges a little and just slowly drifted down a slope. This is annoying. BC the sound is awful, and BC it ruins the snow. It gets pushed to the sides and leaves the area they have passed through bare and hard to ski on. Boarders have a tendency to sit in the snow to rest, whereas skiers will typically stand. BC of the nature of the boots and the balance. This means that snowboarders are far more likely to be in dangerous positions on the slope where people up trail can't see them to avoid them. 1999 called it once its lame rivalry between skiers and snowboarders back. For what it's worth, when I skied Alta, there was a noticeable difference. Scraping off the snow aside, snowboarders tend to be better at turning one direction than the other, which means they have more of a scalloped turn sequence. Decent skiers can usually turn pretty symmetrically and work their way down the fall line. So when the run starts to bump out and turn into moguls, the bumps at skiers-only resorts are much cleaner and more symmetrical, which makes them a joy to ski. You could literally see and feel the difference in the runs. My dad, who was a ski bum in the 70s, noted that it felt more like it did back in the day, just smaller since skis are shorter now. No more moguls the size of VW bugs. I won't hold it against Alta, or Deer Valley or MRG, if they can sell enough tickets to keep operating without allowing borders. That's their right. It is cool that you can go there and experience expert terrain that's untouched by anyone but skiers. I usually travel with at least one snowboarder, so I won't be going to those places very often, but I like that they stick with it. As a skier and snowboarder, I've looked at all the cat tracking at Alta and there is no damn way I'd knuckle drag that hill. Snowbird sure, Alta no way, too much work for me. Yeah, I think the fact that Alta stands for another long traverse again probably works in their favor. Here, it wouldn't be a very fun place to snowboard. So why sell lift tickets to a bunch of boarders who will go home and talk crap about your mountain? To skiers and boarders alike. What does this mean? I'm a complete noob about skiing. Cat tracks flat sections, or very little slope. A lot of times it's because these tracks are used for groomers in the winter and in the summertime as a road to get up the hill. Skiers are able to traverse these sections easily because their feet are separated. This enables skiers the ability to skate or push themselves with poles across the flat section easily. Snowboarders have both feet bound to a single plank, so when snowboarders hit these sections they have a much more difficult time with things. Their options are: unstrap their back foot so they can push like a skateboarder would, squat down and use your hands to push yourself. I am guessing this is what you, Word of Mouth Revisited, is talking about when he says knuckle drag. Travel with a skier, grab onto their pole and skitch across the flat section. Edited for grammar purposes. Thanks you, Boytemi Colleague, for the heads up. Hulu in 2008. It used to be completely free, browser-based, with no ads. It was the only way for me to watch new episodes of Heroes every week. Netflix in 05-06. Getting not one, not two but 3 DVDs sent to the house for just $9.99 a month. Lol. It was such a cool system back then. I remember reading a crapload about classics, and then queuing them up to binge on weekends. I have very fond memories of it. I used to watch Deadliest Warrior on it when I was around 11. Whoa, I haven't thought about this show in years. I first saw The Simpsons when it was a sketch on the Tracy Ullman Show, and thought it was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. I was ecstatic when I learned they were making a full cartoon of it. I watched it religiously up until about season 15 or 16 before I finally switched to every once in a while like we all eventually did. Another Simpsons season 0 air. I was around 6 at the time and my parents would let me stay up a bit late to watch The Simpsons sketches. They showed Simpsons roasting on an open fire for the 30th anniversary and only then did I really realize, oh yeah, I watched this the very first time it aired. I feel you. The love is there, but it had to evolve. They used to be with it, but then they changed what it was. Now what they're with isn't it anymore, and what's it seems weird and scary. It all happened to you. Grandpa Simpson, does you, mystery team, know you are on their account? What are you cackling at, fatty? Too much pie, that's your problem. Don't want to brag, but I bought some N95 masks the second week of January. AskReddit, well some do. Some don't. But I've never been in this position before and am unsure of the etiquette. So thanks for the upvotes and the awards. From a 62-year-old Canadian woman who's a bit overwhelmed. Someone had a big brain moment. I thought it was a big brain thing to do when I bought like 30 of them for a big group of friends and I who were going to a summer festival together, when the entire West Coast US was on fire the summer of 2018, causing a lot of smoke problem for some festival campgrounds. Anyway, nobody ended up using a single one cause we were all busy getting drunk and doing drug and being degenerates. Then COVID hit and I had my galaxy brain moment when the N95 masks were being sold at like $7 minus 10 a unit. What made you buy them then? I followed the progression of the virus on Reddit from late December, before the Chinese government even admitted there was a problem. I ordered some too. My family told me I was being crazy and now there are local mandates that we have to wear masks in public. For a minute I felt so smart. But I would happily look like a fool if this garbage could have been avoided. I had that same thing. Everyone in California learned their lesson after the air quality got so bad during the fires and the hardware stores ran out of N95s. So we all stockpiled. How could we ever forget when a campfire happened and the whole Bay Area filled up with toxic smoke for 2 weeks and we thought that was the apocalypse. If you didn't wear an N95 mask it literally hurt to breathe. Yup, those were the good old days. Bro, I lived in Chico. The sky was red and black for days. This is at 11:30 a.m. I was out for the night back when I was 17, 19. A friend and I went to a good pub in Oxfordshire where we thought we'd have a chance to pick up some girls. Ended up getting drunk, taking an E and listening to the band who were pretty good. After their set we popped out of the pub for a quick joint. The band walked over and asked for a toke. Ended up spending the rest of the evening in the back of their van smoking weed and drinking. Turned out that the band was an unknown indie rock group called Radiohead. A couple of weeks later Creep went international. Been a fan ever since. Edited the correct song, piss poor spelling. Edited again. Wow, never thought this would blow up anywhere near this much. Thank you to the generous people who have given me awards, especially the gold one. Dude, that's sick F. Haha, who was asking for a toke out of curiosity? 25 plus years later I genuinely can't remember. I do know it wasn't Tom York though, as he arrived as we were climbing into the van. Not that I had any clue who he was until he was introduced as Tom. Or Tom as I assumed at the time. Are you telling me the H is silent? YH is. Sent an electronic mail message from my car using a HP48G calculator and a ham radio in 1993. That feat got published in a technical magazine. Nothing about that first sentence sounds cool. But I know the G is for gangster. Edit. Thanks for all the love, upvotes, and awards. To answer the common questions, I wrote a terminal emulator for the 48G. That talked to a terminal node controller, which is like a modem to interface between the calculator and radio. The message. Don't remember the exact details, but I was 16 so it probably went to my mom's Prodigy account to say hi mom. Went through the ham radio packet network until it hit a node with an internet bridge. The car was my POS 88 Mustang that I bought for $1,800. Lastly, the source for G is for gangster as it relates to HP48G comes from the incredible Nerd Rap Entertainment System album by YT Cracker. I don't know what those things are or how they work, but you're a damn trailblazer. Respect. I disagree, sounds cool as frick. Home computing. I started in 1976. Before RGB there was only green. I had an Acer Model 33 teletype and an inexhaustible source for rolls of paper and punch tape. Ink ribbons were a problem, but I had an endless supply of ink cartridges for some IBM printer that I could break open and spool onto the bobbins. I also, through a weird series of coincidences, had online access to a few services like Telex DWX and a couple of remote computer systems where I could interact and/or execute programs, so I was already very immersed in a computing and networked communication scene long before home computers were a thing. I'm very grateful that the journey made it possible for me to get the kits and the parts in there. Know how to build my first S100 bus machine. Oddly enough, it's because I was into amateur radio that any of this stuff crossed my path in the first place. Good time. That's Bill Gates you just replied to. You made me check. Had Tesla stock at $28. I remember when Tesla announced the Roadster back in 2007. I was so impressed. I remember thinking, boy, if I had money, I'd buy that company's stock in a heartbeat. Oh, they're not publicly traded. Well, then let me just forget they exist for the next 8 years. Saw an article about it with a starting price of $10. I've been thinking about that a lot lately. Yeah, oddly I didn't think I was that early. Like they seemed big to me and bought a kit 100 shares. Was my first investment and got nervous at $240-ish and sold. Crap, a 2,400% return is nothing to scoff at. Still sucks that you aren't making the $1,895 that it's at today. But you win some, you lose some. Edit. Of course my top comment would be factually incorrect. For whatever reason I didn't know how to calculate % return on investments. I blame the American education system. I was also using the wrong initial investment number. I assumed they had bought in at $10 instead of at $28. Which still makes my math wrong, but at least it's a little closer to correct. The real % return would be 757.14%. 1200 to 28. 28. Asterisk 100 equals approximately 757.14%. Buy at $28, sell at $240, closer to a 1,200% return, but still pretty damn good. I worked for a movie theater chain in 1996, and my boss got a VHS copy of Jesus vs. Santa Claus at some industry event. We watched that video a dozen times and laughed our asses off. About 6 months later, South Park debuted on Comedy Central and we were very excited to see it had been picked up. Oh man, just made me realize I'm getting old. Spotify. I remember I had to use a VPN to use it in my country. OMG, I forgot about this one. I distinctly remember telling people about it when I was in 6th grade. 2011. And my teacher telling me something like, there's no way that's legal, legit. I've been a continuously paying user since 2008. I remember back when it was free and there wasn't a whole lot there. Then they started charging and I was like, yo, WTF, how can you do this to me? Crazy how big it grew. Skateboards. 1964 or so. Damn, that's before the Lords of Dogtown. My husband is 62 and still skating bowls. A picture of him holding a board is in Wes Humpston's book. Please let your husband know he is freaking rad. I was sleeping with my ex long before everyone started doing it. Nice. Listening to Nirvana's blues song on student radio, NZ, in 1989 and thinking these guys are good. Thanks for watching LWIAR. The best of recent r/AskReddit submissions and comments. If you like this video, check out LWIAR too. And don't forget to like and subscribe.